Let's take a look at all of your supplies and your materials. Everything's going to be listed in the instructions. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to press with Mary Ellen's Best Press all of our cotton materials. I love this solution for so many reasons, and you can actually take a look up right above on the right hand side and follow a link to learn more about Mary Ellen's Best Press. Let's go ahead and fuse the front paperback fusible web, which is the scratchy side, to the foam front. Be careful, it's going to be super hot. Once it cools down, just remove that paper and discard it. And now you have adhesive on the foam. Press the front wrong side to the front foam. And make sure you follow the manufacturer's instruction on how long to press to make sure that that fabric really is going to stay in place. I really like using the foam now with In the Hoop projects. It just really makes the materials stand out. Let's go ahead while we're here and fold our back pieces wrong sides together and give it a press. And now we have a nice fold. Just to the right of the fold, we're going to place that paperback fusible web. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us a little extra body for our snap later on. So press it, make sure it sticks really good, cool it down, and just like before, you're going to remove that paper. Then you're going to go ahead and close the fold, and you're going to press as well. And next up, let's go ahead and fold the other back piece, wrong sides together, and press to create a fold. Let's go ahead and press the paperback fusible ladybug head piece to the wrong side of the ladybug head piece, which is black here. Same thing, give it a good press, cool it off, and then remove that paper. Let's go ahead and hoop our stabilizer. Just make sure it's centered within the width and the height. Make sure to follow your sewing machine's guide or ask your local dealer exactly the proper way of hooping your hoop, because everyone's a little bit different. Next, you're going to go ahead and place that front right sides up, and we're going to put it in the center of the width and the height. It's optional if you want to use some tape, but if you do, go ahead and place a little piece at the top and the bottom. Thread your machine with red and put white in the bobbin, and sew stitch number 1. Once you're finished stitching, go ahead and remove your hoop from the machine, remove that tape if you'd like to, and then we're going to be placing that ladybug head material over top of that top portion of the placement stitch. Just like that. Use tape if you'd like at the top and the bottom. And then you're going to insert your hoop again and sew stitch number 2. Once your machine is finished stitching, remove your hoop from your machine and place on a flat surface. Use your favorite pair of applique scissors and just kind of lift up the bottom portion, and you're going to cut as close to the stitching without cutting that stitching. And we're going to be cutting the bottom part of the ladybug head. Now, I like to use a mini iron for pressing small applique pieces. This just helps secure that applique to the main material. Remember, it had a fusible on the other side. Now change your thread to black, insert your hoop in the machine, and sew stitch number 3. Now you're going to go ahead and change it to white and sew the buttons. Look how pretty. Now let's sew the outside of the buttons with black. Very nice, great job. Now let's go ahead and attach our back 2 pieces to the front. What you're going to do is use the piece of back that had that fusible inside. Remember, it helps create that fold, and it'll give a little security when we're adding our snap later. Place it about a 1/2 inch to the left of the center, and then place the other side of the back pretty much on the center, and you'll see it's about a 1/2 inch over the other piece. Secure this with tape along the top and down the center. Let's go ahead and add a piece of tape at the bottom as well. Let's go ahead and wind a matching bobbin of that red Aurifil 50 weight cotton thread, and we're going to insert both into the machine and sew the very last stitch sequence, which is number 6, the construction stitch. Once you're finished stitching, remove the hoop from the machine and the tape, and we're going to go ahead and start removing the materials, finally, yay, from the hoop. When you do this, just be really careful that you don't distort any stitches. So pop out the inside hoop, and you're going to remove the materials. You can turn it to the wrong side, remove that tearaway stabilizer. Again, be really careful that you don't distort the stitches. Turn it to the right side, and you're going to cut 1/4 inch all the way around except for the opening where you're going to leave a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Take your time and do not cut those stitches. Now turn it to this side and remove that foam from the front very carefully. And you'll notice that's where the fusible was. And I used my Olfa Applique Precision Scissors to cut right into that area to remove the extra bulk. And that's where I cut it down to the 1/2 inch seam allowance. There you go. Now let's go ahead and turn this little guy right sides out. And with this, you're going to want to use the point turner. But just take your time and flip that right sides out and keep an eye on where that opening is, because that's where the retractable end of your tape measure is going to go into. Now I like to use the rounded part of my point turner sometimes to help me get around those little curves and smooth edges. So let's go ahead and do that right now. You're going to need 4 pieces of snaps, 2 caps, and then you're going to need the male and the female ends. Let's go ahead and find the placement of our first snap. I like to actually use the cap itself with the little pokey part in the back. Push it right into the material, that way I know exactly where I want it. Push hard enough so that it creates an indentation. And then I like to use the awl to go through all layers. I cracked myself up. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and grab that snap and push it through that hole. What's nice, the awl, it actually creates like a really nice hole so that the pushing through isn't as difficult. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the snap tool and the stand. Now, of course, the snap tool comes by itself, but I find that it's a little hard for me to grip it since I've had surgery in both my wrists. So I actually do like a stand because it helps keep everything in place, and now I'm using the whole weight of my arms and my body pushing into it versus just my hand grip. Again, something to consider. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the male portion of the snap to the wrong side of the current cap part, and we're going to slip it underneath our snap tool. Just kind of manipulate the materials so that it goes in and give it a good push. Once you've done that, your snap, of course, is perfect. And it's not going to go anywhere. These snaps are really great. Now let's go ahead and figure out where the other side of the snap is going to be. I like to align the top portion of the snap over the bottom area. Use the awl to push through all layers again. And go ahead and do the same thing. This time the cap end is going to go on the inside though. Just follow the instructions that comes with the snap tool and of course the snaps. Now we're going to go ahead and add the female portion. We're going to slip it underneath our tool and do the same thing. We're going to push down and make sure it's nice and secure. That way our snaps do not come off. And now we have both sides of our snap and it looks good. Let's go ahead and make sure it works and snap. Perfect, great. There we go. And the final step is to get that tape measure inside our Ladybug tape measure cover. Be sure that you have the push button of the tape measure going on what would be the back side of our tape measure cover. This way the button lines up with the snap. Clever, huh? Pull that little tab all the way out and make sure you know where the hole is, that opening. We're going to kind of just manipulate our materials and finagle our way into there. See the opening? Just slip that little tab inside the opening, which is now the outside of our tape measure cover. And next you're going to just put one side in of the tape measure cover, flip around the outside back, and snap down. And there you have it, the Sewing Gnome Ladybug tape measure cover.